She is so cooked. Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your number one source for everything It Ends With Us saga. Rewind. Shameless and sham-tastic Blake Lively first started dating Ryan Reynolds in 2011. Stanky Blanky and Dick Pool got married in 2012, and ever since then, she has been very ambitious. Nothing wrong with that. I respect a hustler. But the shampoo company owner, see what I did there? Has been trying to portray an image of who she is that does not align with the reality of who she really is, according to 6 people who worked for her. 6! This is explosive. Back in 2014, the goddess of gaslighting launched Preserve. The name is as annoying as the concept. Preserve was supposed to be a knockoff of Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. You can search for it yourself. It's a real thing. She started the company in 2014. It was a short-lived online lifestyle website. It was intended to connect users with makers of various products, experiences, and stories. The site aimed to offer a curated selection of artisanal home goods, experiences, and storytelling with a focus on shoppable lifestyle. However, it was shut down in 2015, just a year later. And now, a decade later, we're getting this tell-all. This is what I love about the It Ends With Us saga. There are so many surprises. This is better than a telenovela. Soap operas pale in comparison. Just last week, Justin Baldoni's attorney revealed to the world that he had sat on information since February about Taylor Swift's former bestie threatening her. He had that since February and didn't release it until now. And now, all of these months later, after this explosion that is the It Ends With Us saga, we're hearing from 6 former staffers who have spoken to the Daily Mail. And you're not gonna believe all of this. Preserve was run out of a Manhattan studio apartment owned by the Nepo baby's brother, Eric Lively, where, according to these staffers, he drank alcohol, inhaled the green stuff, frequently left staff out in the cold when he overslept, and forced them to work sitting on the floor for months before buying furniture. This was her company. When you're the boss, the buck stops there. You have to take accountability for everything. The triumphs and the F-ups. Oh my God, it gets worse. Talk about sexual harassment. 3 separate staffers who worked at Preserve reveal that Eric Lively, who was married at the time, had an affair with one of the employees. Where was HR? I want to see the HR investigation. The entire company was an absolute disaster, one staffer says. The workplace allegations that Blake is making now are deeply ironic, given that it was one of the most insane, toxic, emotionally draining, and disorganized environments you could imagine. Another former staffer of hers says, "The impression Blake left on me after I worked at Preserve is that she doesn't care. It was a really toxic work environment." Second former employee who referred to their time there as toxic. "You're slipping under." The staffers spoke anonymously for fear of retribution, and they alleged that their experience there was a company that was shambolic and an inappropriate work environment that she presided over. And unfortunately, Here's the main reason they can't speak on the record. They signed NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. But thankfully, they're speaking off the record and in number. 6 of them! Additionally, with those NDAs came settlements, because of the toxicness of the experience that they had to endure. One of the former employees even walked away with $300,000 after threatening legal action over their treatment. And none of this leaked to the press until now. One staffer claims Leslie Sloan, her publicist, shut it down. They buried every single thing from that company. Things weren't awful at first. However, the former staffers claim that after Liley's brother, Eric, became involved, that's when things started to go downhill. Eric was a failed actor with no business experience. In fact, in 2009, he had filed for bankruptcy. And here he is helping his sister run this new Gwyneth Paltrow knockoff business that he shouldn't have been. This sounds like it would have been a great reality show. There were about 8 people, all in their 20s or so, working for Preserve in Eric's Lower Manhattan studio apartment. One employee says Eric was completely unqualified to run a company. There were a lot of ways in which the employment was unprofessional. For many weeks or months, there were no desks. We had to sit on the floor. The irony of it being a lifestyle site that was selling these really expensive wares was not lost on anyone. It was a big studio. There wasn't a delineation between living quarters and working quarters. The bed was part of the same room. There was a whiteboard, but it wasn't really furnished. I felt like he was being an actor, acting the part of creative director of this company. One day, suddenly, out of nowhere, he said, "You need to put together a strategy and present it tomorrow." You show up for work the next day, and he's still asleep. Others said they were frequently left outside in the cold on weekday mornings, waiting for Eric to let them in. Oh my God. People would be outside in the cold and he wouldn't let them in because he was still lying in bed smoking a bowl. He was taking lots of prescription pills. He would openly smoke. He drank too. We'd get to the office and it would smell like WEED. It was clear he partied the night before. They recount a photo shoot for Preserve in 2015 where they showed up to Blake's Westchester County mansion and she showed up 2 hours late for the shoot. Things got so bad with people working at Eric's loft as an all-hours business that his neighbors complained about Eric Lively several times with the New York City Department of Buildings in January of 2015. The filing was for illegal commercial use in residential zone. Several of the staffers were uncomfortable with Eric Lively's affair with an employee. Paychecks were sometimes haphazard too, staff claimed. 2 staffers said they were unable to afford their subway fares when Preserve failed to pay them on time amid the slow collapse of the brand in 2015. The staff in the spring of 2015 requested a meeting with her where they complained about Eric Lively. Blake immediately shut it down and said she wouldn't be entertaining anything about her brother, one staffer said. So it went nowhere. Multiple legal actions were launched after the company started firing staff, and they kept silent until now because of the NDA and financial settlements. But some ex-employees say they decided to speak out after seeing Blake accuse Baldoni of sexual harassment and an unprofessional environment on the set of It Ends With Us. It's so ironic. 3 out of roughly 8 employees made legal claims, says a former staffer. And I'm so thankful that they spoke out now. Thoughts? Let's discuss it all in the comments section.